Hi, this is Dr. Otto Janke with the Chiropractic Research Reports. We have a very, very special edition of the Chiropractic Research Reports for you. You know, this is brought to you by the New York Chiropractic Council, hoping you get the latest information, research, and then ultimately become the best doc that you can be. Recently, we just had some fantastic news in the state of New York, and we brought on one of my friends and a leader in chiropractic in New York. This is Dr. John LaMonica. Hello, Dr. John LaMonica.
Hello, Dr. Otto Janke, and thank you so much for having me.
John, where are you at right now?
I'm in my office.
Where's your office at?
In White Plains, New York.
White Plains, New York. Let me ask you a question. Are the plains actually white in White Plains?
It depends.
And that's all we got right there. John, how long were you the president of the New York Chiropractic Council?
For 4 years.
And at that time, you're also president of the Congress of Chiropractic State Associations?
Yes, I was.
How long were you that?
That was a 2-year presidency, but it's probably about 12 years moving up the ranks in that organization on a national basis.
Awesome. John, so what was the information that came out from the state of New York recently?
Well, we have some very exciting information from a lot of the hard work that's been being done. Exactly a week ago today, on Friday of last week, the governor signed the New York State budget. And included in that budget was a directive for the Commissioner of Health to create a pilot program for non-pharmacological care, meaning other than opioid treatment of chronic low back pain, to see the effects that would have on hoping to reduce the opioid crisis and addiction.
That's absolutely fantastic. First of all, I got so many questions that come off the top of that. But first of all,
well, let me just add one thing, and again, the most important thing is that we, chiropractic, were specifically mentioned as that group, one of the groups. So that was where it was really, really key on this budget.
So we are mentioned specifically as we're going to be helping people with this. And first of all, how did this all come about, and why this process even start?
So to clarify, also, this is going to be a pilot program in the Medicaid system.
Right.
Believe it or not. So, as you know, Medicaid is part of CMS, which is the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services on a federal basis, run through the state program. Right now in New York State, we are part of the program, but we're not funded generally for Medicaid. Right. So what this would do, of course, it needs approval from the feds, which the thought process in Albany is that it will be, because it is a broad, it's not just chiropractic, but we are specifically mentioned as one of the providers in it. Right. And because of that, because of the crisis, because of the opioid epidemic, they are trying to do everything possible to battle this. So it looks really good that we will get this approved federally. Now, the way this came about is, this doesn't happen overnight, as you're well aware. Yeah, this is years and years and years. As you've been a part of this, I've been a part of this for going on 30 years. Being in Albany, being at the legislators' offices, being at meetings. So a few years back, when the Senate was still controlled by the Republicans, and this is not a political situation, it's just historical, is they created a Senate opioid task force. A lot of work was done in that. We were participating in that as much as possible on a profession level as the council. The rest of the profession also participated in it as well, as much as possible. We all worked very hard to do this. And then, of course, in the last year or so, it has changed over to the Democratic control of the House. I mean, the House and the Senate. And what happened to that in that situation is that the Senate reconvened the opioid task force. So right away, we got again in contact with the chairs and the committee members of this task force to ask to be a part. We were invited to testify, and myself, Dr. Joe Badilli, the president of the council, Dr. Brian Ludwig is also testifying as well. But on the first Senate Opioid Task Force, Dr. Joe Badilli and myself were there testifying on behalf of the profession. We were the only non-pharmacological profession at that task force
Wow.
hearing. And the only way we were able to do that is by our relationships that we created over years and years.
Right.
By going to events and fundraisers, going to the offices of the legislators in Albany and even locally, and making our relationships. And it takes time to do that. And the chairs, and this is what was really unbelievable about this, is that this didn't go through a bill. This was directly inserted into the governor's budget.
Right. Right.
Literally a few days prior to when it was put out to be signed. So that's a very, very significant achievement for our profession, and showing the respect that we are having here to be included in this and named
Right.
chiropractic.
So let me ask you two things. Two things come off that right away, John. First of all, this is just a huge step for us to have our name put on that, which is just it's a fantastic step for us, and shows us that first of all how critical the situation is, and second of all they're seeing us as I won't say a solution, but something that's going to massively help this whole problem.
Absolutely, they do see us as part of the solution of the problem. They recognize fully that other crutches are not the way to fix this problem.
Right.
And the more people are getting onto even the initial drugs, that leads to stronger if it's not corrected.
Right. Right. Right.
So they want to see how this can have an effect on this and where we would go from there. And if you like, I'd like to just go into a little bit on how it actually works and how the process works, and with chiropractic per se, but also in general on the thought process on a little bit about addiction and how that works, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, give us the highlights, man.
Yeah, just a few highlights. As you know, that it has been known and documented that addiction is centered in something called the reward center of the brain. And I'm sorry?
Go ahead, man.
Yes, and the head of the National Institute of Drug Abuse, which is Nora Volkow, has put out research on this showing how the reward centers of the brain, which is located in the midbrain, control people's addictive habits and how that works. Also, a study by Blum and Bajaj that was done in Health in November of 2013, he actually coined the term reward deficiency syndrome, which shows that how any input to the nervous system, whether it be a physical, an emotional, a chemical, a stress, has direct connections with the reward centers in the midbrain, which develop a positive or negative response, which gets recorded in a person's memory. Now, it depends on how that person reacts to it and how good that system is. And many people, if they're living unhealthy lifestyles, if they have weakened genetics, if that system itself doesn't work properly, then they're not going to be able to establish those positive responses which quells an addictive behavior. Now let's move one step further. Let's go to the physical aspect of this. Direct relationship to the spine, okay, with the nervous system. And it's been documented in those studies how the mechanoreceptors receive these information and gets transmitted. And anytime you help to normalize the functional integrity of the motor unit, you're giving those positive responses to the reward centers of the brain. which formulates those positive responses, which allows the person to come down and not look for other avenues to get that reward feeling. So
Awesome.
when we do adjustments and we focus on, of course, what chiropractors call the subluxation, uh, or aberrant joint motion in the motor segment, and we do an adjustment, and we help to normalize the functional integrity of that motor segment, you are putting positive responses through that system, so that person can develop a positive reward center memory.
So, so let's break it down for a little bit. We have reward centers in our brain. Our body, our nervous system always communicates. We communicate the reward centers in the brain, and it can be chemical, it can be physical. And if we can get better physical, there's an opportunity to decrease the chemical.
Absolutely, and remember, pain is a very controlling factor. It has significant effects, and not to just function on focus on pain, but when you have a lack of motion or a problem in the spine, an effect, of course, is pain. Pain causes not only physical stress, but it also causes emotional stress, and
Right.
that just overloads this whole system. So we know as a fact that chiropractic helps with to normalize the motion in the spine, which in effect will have a decrease in the nociception, which is also pain combination, which will help to reduce those negative impulses that are going up to the brain and to the reward centers of the brain.
Awesome. So if someone has a physical injury, a low back injury, the drugs do a great job of taking care of the sensory, of the chemical portion of that, but it doesn't touch the physical problem.
It usually does not do that, but what ends up happening is that the brain and memory sees the drug as the reward.
Right. Right.
So what happens is that inside the brain, it's telling you, I need that in order for me to get my reward response, my positive reward response. And that's therein lies the issue. It's what is actually causing that reward system to have a positive response.
So this is probably something that chiropractors have been seeing. We've been seeing in our practices probably for decades on end. And now we're actually
Absolutely.
now it's actually being seen that we can be a fantastic part of the solution for a massive, massive problem.
This is what it's all about. This is what we were testifying at. We were just trying to show that there are many ways to affect this situation, this crisis. And if we can prevent people from going on the initial drugs, which lead to the more powerful opioid drugs, even if we catch them in the mid stage of that, when they've already on some and saw maybe other providers that are on some medication, even over the counter stuff that they're doing themselves, and then we have some kind of interaction in there, there's a very good possibility. It's not going to happen for everybody, as you know. It's not the only answer that we have here, but it's a significant answer. And if we can control and help a significant portion of this population from getting to that next step, it'll be incredible for our society, for the patients.
Having been someone myself who had a friend of mine who well, died because of opioid addiction, because of a low back injury. It took him 10 years to die, but I'm gonna leave a couple links down below for people for some articles. One is from Pain in 2020, March of 2020, just came out, the impact of chiropractic care on the use of prescription opioids in patients with spinal pain. Just says, listen, people who are adjusted take less meds. From 2018, association between utilization of chiropractic services for treatment of low back pain and use of prescription opioids. This one set me off in 2018 from the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. Says, listen, people who are adjusted take less meds. And the association between chiropractic use and opioid receipt among patients with spinal pain. Again, from 2020, February 2020, just came out. Once again, demonstrate an inverse association between chiropractic use and opioid receipt among patients with spinal pain. We should be in the ball game, and it's fantastic to see with the hard work of the New York Chiropractic Council. You, Dr. Joe Baudil, and Brian Ludwig, we're seeing a fantastic result. And we have an opportunity to not only change people's lives, dramatically improve it, but save New York State a couple $1 million along the way, too.
Absolutely. And I really want to really embellish on the fact that, there's always going to be people out there that say, oh, yeah, what research? How can you say this? And how do you document this? You just gave various studies. I just gave 2 basic studies. There's many out there. But if you realize this is not, these are not even chiropractic studies.
Right.
That's what was really cool about this. What we did was we see the foundation of how the body works, period.
Right.
Not even chiropractically. And this has been documented with this input of stimuli, negative versus positive, how it affects the brain in the reward center. This is not chiropractic, this is science. And then in a sense, the separate part of it is showing how stabilization and normalization of spinal integrity and motor segment integrity has a direct effect on those same reward centers. And then there's chiropractic, who we know now have that positive effect on spinal mobility and motor segments. So it's not that difficult to realize how they're connected. So we're not saying right off the bat that this is a chiropractic only thing that does this, but chiropractic is one of the primary tools are used to get function back into the spine and the motor segments through the adjustment when somebody is subluxated or has an aberrant motion in their spine.
Absolutely. That could be absolutely phenomenal for a lot of not only docs, but look at the people who are going to be changed. Their lives are going to be changed. Get back into work and get back into life and living again. It could be, we start looking at a year from now and having some of these papers published, or 2 years from now, papers published of some of the lives that have been changed. Holy crap, John, this is an opportunity to be just massive for people in New York.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. We're looking at, now this study is going to cost, this pilot program is not even created yet.
Right.
We're hoping through our relationships that we're going to have some input on how it happens and how it's done. But it's going to be initiated in certain counties, and the details aren't finalized by any means as of yet. So we will keep in touch and let the profession know exactly how that's moving forward, and we will stay on top of that and hopefully be a part of that process. And what we're looking to see, which I feel very strongly about, is that we're going to see those same results on how these people that we've already seen in our office tell us about this.
Right.
I didn't have to take this. I didn't have to do that anymore. That's going to show this through this process. I'm sure they're going to have some way of monitoring and recording the results. So we do the good job that we always do. It's going to show, I feel, a very great benefit.
Oh, absolutely. I'm just thinking how we've read for years, John, that opioid addiction, the opioid epidemic is destroying families around America, especially we see it in New York because it's right in our backyard. Absolutely. Congratulations to the New York Chiropractic Council, to you, Dr. Joe Baudil and Dr. Brian Ludwig, on putting the hard hours in and making those connections, because this is an opportunity to absolutely just phenomenally improve many lives in New York. Just fantastic stuff. Any last words for us, John?
I just want to thank you for all your time and energy, and even putting these videos together to get it out to not only the profession and the public, but this is very important for everyone to know what is actually going on, where we're at, so that they can be part of this and understand that what a great profession we do have and the work that's being done on their behalf. So thank you for everything that you're doing as well.
Sure. Oh, sure. And it's good that technology is working on our behalf, isn't it?
Yes. We finally got this organized.
Yeah, smooth, man, smooth. I'm Dr. Otto Janke for the Chiropractic Research Reports. We had a highlight today with our friend and chiropractic leader, Dr. John LaMonica, giving the brand new news about how chiropractic has been singled out amongst other tools, but been named specifically to be in a pilot program to help people with so we can start combating the opioid problem in New York State. John, I appreciate you being on today, and let's see how we can improve the lives of more New Yorkers.
Thank you.